Hi, fifth graders. Welcome to the Chapter 9 review pages. I am starting on textbook page 577. On question number 1, this question says, the letters on the coordinate grid represent the locations of the first 4 holes on a golf course. Which of the following accurately describes the location of a hole? Mark all that apply. So we're going to go through all choices to see which ones would be the correct answer. So for A, it says hole U is 4 units left and 4 units down from hole S. So if I start at S and I go 4 to the left, I would go 1, 2, and I run out of my coordinate grid. So therefore I know that right away A is not one of the choices that I can use. B says hole F is 1 unit right and 7 units down from hole U. So going to U, I need to go 1 to the right and then 7 units down. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That does take me to hole F. So I do know that that should be one of my choices that I fill in. Next, it says hole T is 2 units left and 4 units up from hole S. So I'm starting at hole S, I'm going to go 2 to the left, so 1, 2, and then it says I have to go 4 up. 1, 2, 3, 4. When I do that, it does take me to hole T, so C is another choice that I can fill in. Now, D says hole S is 3 units left and 5 units up from hole F. So from F, I'm going to go 3 to the left, 1, 2, 3, and then 5 up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That did not take me to hole S, so that is not a choice that I can select. So when you have questions like that with mark all that apply, make sure you go through each choice before moving on to the next question. Number 2, a builder is buying property to build new houses. The sizes of the lots are, and you can see a list of fractions, and that is being measured in acres. Organize the information in a line plot. What is the average size of the lots? So I am going to create a line plot where I'm talking about the house lots for the line plot. That is my label. And I know that this was measured in acres. And if I look at my fraction sizes, I see 1/6, 1/2, and 1/3. Those are the 3 fraction sizes that are given. I know the smallest of the 3 is 1/6. Remember, if you have 6 equal sizes and only 1 is shaded in, that is a very small amount compared to the 1/2 and the 1/3. So I'm going to list the 1/6 right here. Then between the 1/2 and 1/3, I know 1 out of 3 sections is smaller than 1 out of 2 sections, so I'm going to have the 1/3 right here. And then obviously the 1/2 would be the biggest fraction. So now I'm going to count up the number of 1/6 size acre lots and put the number of X's above that. So I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I need to place 6 X's above the 1/6 to mark how many 1/6 size lots there are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to do the same thing now for the 1/3. I have 1, 2, 3 of the 1/3. So 1, 2, 3. I try to keep my X's the same size so that way I don't make it a misleading line plot. And then finally the 1/2. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I also have 6 1/2 size lots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So now that I have my information organized, now I can find the average size lot. So if I'm counting by 1/6, and I have 6 X's, that would give me 6/6. I know that 6/6 equals 1 whole. So that would be 1 whole acre. Next, for the 1/3, I have 3 of those. So 1/3 plus 1/3 plus 1/3, that would give me 3/3, which again equals 1 whole. Now, for the 1/2, remember I have 6 of those 1/2, so I would have 6 halves, or 6 divided by 2 equals 3. So now I can add those 3 numbers together. So I have 1 plus 1 plus 3, that does equal 5. Next, I have to divide it by the number of x's that I have for all of the house plots. So remember, I had 6 for the 1/6 and 6 for the 1/2, so that would be 12 x's right there. Plus 3 for the 1/3, 12 plus 3 does equal 15. So my next step is to divide the 5 by 15. Remember from chapter 8, the first number is your numerator, the second number is your denominator. 5/15 can be simplified both by 5. So when I divide them both by 5, I have 1/3. So the average size lot is 1/3 acre. Moving on to number 3, it says for 6 days in a row, Julia measured the depth of the snow in a shaded area of her backyard. The line graph shows her data. Between which 2 days did the depth of the snow decrease the most? So for this, we need to find where the greatest slant is going down. And I see that the most for when it decreased was from day 5 and day 6. That's my longest, greatest tilt in the slant. I can also double check that by using math. I see that day 5 is at 8 inches, day 6 is at 3 inches, and 8 minus 3 does equal 5. If I subtracted between days 4 and 5, day 4 was at 11, and day 5 again was at 8. 11 minus 8 is 3. So because it had to be a decreasing value, I could only look between days 4, 5, and 6, and obviously days 5 and 6 had the bigger decrease. Moving on to the next page, it says Portia made a table to figure out how much she earned selling t-shirts. For A through B, use the table to choose the correct values to describe how one sequence is related to the other. So A, they want us to figure out what the unknown number in day 5 is, and B, they want to know what rule we use to figure that out. So I'm actually going to solve B before I solve A to make sure I am doing the correct rule. So we're comparing the number of t-shirts sold to the amount of money earned. I do see that my numbers are increasing, so I'm going to have to multiply. And now I need to figure out how I'm going from t-shirts sold to the amount earned. So I have to figure out how do I go from 5 to 20, 10 to 40, 15 to 60, and 20 to 80. I notice that if I just take 5 times 4, that equals 20. If I do the same thing for 10 times 4, that does equal 40. 15 times 4 equals 60, and 20 times 4 equals 80. So I know I'm going to be multiplying my number of t-shirts sold by 4 to figure out my amount earned. So for B, my rule is to multiply by 4. Now to solve for A, I have 25 t-shirts that are sold times 4, because that is my rule. And I know from working with quarters, 25 times 4 equals 100. So that is my missing number for day 5. Number 5 says, Juana made a table to figure out how much he earned at his job. For part A, they want us to write the rule that relates the amount he earns to the number of hours worked. We're not going to worry about explaining how we can check our rule. We're just going to create the rule to figure out how we are going from hours worked to the amount of money he earns. So I know that if I go from 6 to 54, I'm taking 6 times 9 to get that 54. 12 to 108. Again, I know 12 times 9 equals 108. I could do the same thing for the 18 and the 24, but with the first two, I can already tell that my rule will be to multiply the hours worked by 9. So I found my rule is to multiply by 9. Now for part B, they want to know how much money does he earn from his job in week 6. So week 6, notice it was 36 hours. We said our rule was to multiply by 9. So I'm going to take 36 times 9 to figure this out. So 6 times 9 is 54. Carry my 5. 9 times 3 is 27. 27 plus 5 is 32. So we have $324 for his week 6. Moving on to the next page. For number 6, they want us to look for our pattern. Notice figure 1 has 3 squares. Figure 2 has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Figure 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And figure 4, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So now I notice that my number of squares is increasing by 2 each time I go from one figure to the next. So my rule is to add 2. And if I want to figure out for figure 5 how many squares there would be, remember I have 9 for figure 4 plus 2 that we said our rule was, and 9 plus 2 would give me 11 squares. Moving on to question number 7. It says Lindsay made a map of her town. Match each location below with the correct ordered pair that marks it on the coordinate grid. Not every ordered pair will be used. So for the clock tower, I'm just going to start at the top and I'm going to move down. The clock tower, which is located right here, from the origin I move 1 to the right and then I move 3 up. So my ordered pair is 1, 3. So I'm going to match the clock tower with the ordered pair 1, 3. Next I have the art museum. So right here is my art museum. And if I start at my origin, I go 2 to the right and then I go 4 up. So my ordered pair for the art museum is 2, 4. For the East Park, right here is the location of the East Park. From my origin, I move 4 to the right and 4 up. So my ordered pair is 4, 4 for the East Park. The movie theater, so finding this on the map, my movie theater is located right here. From my origin, moving 4 to the right and only 1 up. So I have 4, 1 for the movie theater. And then finally for school, so finding the school on the map, my ordered pair would be located up here. So from the origin, I am moving 4 to the right and then 5 up. So my ordered pair for school is 4, 5. Remember, from your origin, you always move to the right first and then you move up. Moving on to question number 8. It says Lucy's house is located at the point shown on the coordinate grid. Ainsley's house is located 2 units right and 3 units down from Lucy's house. Plot a point on the coordinate grid to represent the location of Ainsley's house. So, from Lucy's house, it says Ainsley's house is located 2 units right and 3 units down. So I'm going to move 2 to the right, so I have 1, 2, and then I have to go 3 down. 1, 2, 3. So this last dot is where Ainsley's house is located. And when I plot her ordered pair, from my origin, I move 5 to the right and 2 up. So Ainsley's house, which is the second box right here, is 5, 2. I also have to give the ordered pair for Lucy's house. So from my origin, moving 3 to the right and 5 up, I have the ordered pair 3, 5. Moving on to the next page. For question number 9, it says, each week Maria saves some of her allowance. The line graph shows the amount of Maria's savings for the first 5 weeks of the year. For A through B, select true or false for each statement. So for A, it says Maria's savings increased from $30 to $55 over the 5-week period. So for week 1, she was at $30. For week 5, it does say she was at $55. So that is true. She did start at 30 and then she ended at 55. For B, it says the greatest increase in Maria's savings occurred from weeks 1 and 2. Remember, we know that the longest, greatest slanted tilt is going to be the biggest earning. You can also easily figure that out. Between weeks 1 and 2, she only increased by $5. Between weeks 3 and 4, it looks more like about $2 to $3 that she increased. And then for weeks 3 to 4, she went from about $37, $38 to $45. So that right there is a bigger increase than weeks 1 and 2. And then weeks 4 and 5, she had an even bigger increase. She went from $45 to $55, which would be a $10 increase. So this one is going to be false. She did not earn the biggest increase between weeks 1 and 2. Moving on to question number 10. Number 10 says, the line plot shows the weights of bags of beans. What is the average weight of the bags? Show your work. So we are going to go ahead and we are going to figure out the total number for using the x's above the fractions 1/6, 1/3, 1/2, 2/3, and 5/6. So I know that for my 1/6, I have 2 x's. If I count or add 1/6 plus 1/6, that gives me a total of 2/6. I am going to leave the denominator as a 6 right now because I may have to have common denominators with the 6. So therefore, I don't want to simplify just quite yet. For my 1/3, I have 2 of those. So if I add 1/3 plus 1/3, that gives me 2/3. Now for my 1/2, I have 3 of those, so I would have 3 halves. For my 2/3, there are 4 of those x's above the 2/3. So I have 4 over 1 times 2/3. 4 times 2 does give me 8 over 3. So now I have 8/3. And then for the 5/6, I only have 1 x, so that would be 5/6. Now notice, I do not have all common denominators, so therefore, some of my fractions I may have to change to have common denominators. And to be honest, it would probably be easier if all of them had the same denominator. So notice that I have 6, 3, and 2 as my denominators. And if I skip count by 2, 3, and 6, my very first fraction, or my very first denominator that I would have in common is 6. So I'm going to change all of my denominators to be a denominator of 6. Obviously the 2/6 and the 5/6 I can already write down because they have that denominator of 6. So now for my 2/3, I want to convert my 2/3 to have a denominator of 6. And when I fill in my blank, I have 3 times 2 equals 6. So 2 times 2 will equal 4. So now for the 1/3, I have 4/6. Next, for the 3/2, again, I want that denominator of 6. Notice I already have an improper fraction, and that's okay. I'm just going to leave it improper. So to fill in the blank, I have 2 times 3 equals 6. So when I multiply the numerator by 3, I would have 9/6. Plus, and then I have to do the same thing for the 2/3. I have to do the same thing for the 8/3. Again, it's an improper fraction, but that's okay. So having the denominator of 6, I have 3 times 2 equals 6. So when I multiply 8 times 2, I have 16/6. So I'm just going to double check to make sure I have all of my numbers written down that I have to add. So I have the 2/6, the 5/6, I have the 2/3, the 3/2, and then the 8/3, all having the denominators now of 6. So I know that when I add this together, it's still going to be a denominator of 6. I'm just going to add my numerators together. So I like to make sure that I try to make this as easy as possible. I notice that 16 plus 4 gives me 20. Going to then add on the 9 is 29. 29 plus 2 from the 2/6. 29 plus 2 is 31. 31 plus 5 is 36. So now I have 36 over 6. And again, I just added all of those numbers on the numerators together to find that 36. So if I take 36 divided by 6, I know that 6 times 6 does equal my 36. So my sum is 6. And then that is being measured in pounds, so 6 pounds for my total. Now that we have the total, I'm going to divide that total by the number of x's that my line plot has. So I have 2, 4, plus 3 is 7, plus 4 is 11, plus 1 is 12. So I have a total of 12 x's. And so when I take 6 divided by 12, the first number is the numerator of my fraction. The second number is the denominator. So I have 6/12. That is not simplest form, so I need to make sure I simplify both of them by 6. 6 divided by 6 is 1. 12 divided by 6 is 2. So my average weight is 1/2 pounds. That is my final answer. Moving on to question number 11. The table shows how much a puppy weighs from 1 month old to 5 months old. So the question down below the table is asking, what ordered pairs would you plot to show the puppy's weight on a coordinate grid? How do you think the ordered pairs would be different if the puppy's weight was measured every week instead of every month? So remember when we did this lesson, we said the top number was always the x coordinate, the bottom number was always the y coordinate. So to write my ordered pairs, my first ordered pair is 1, 12. Remember, ordered pairs have parentheses around them with a comma in between the two numbers, the x and y coordinates. The second is 2, 18. The third, we would have 3, 23. Then 4, 31. And then 5, 34. So that was the first part. The second part is asking, how do you think the ordered pairs would be different if the puppy's weight was measured every week instead of every month? Well, I know that if I'm measuring it every week, my weights aren't going to be as high as it would if I, since I'm not measuring it monthly anymore. So obviously, if you wanted to have it out for 5 months old, I would have more ordered pairs. So I would have more ordered pairs if I still needed it to go out for 5 months. And the weight would only increase by a little each week. Again, the weight would only increase by a little each week. All right, moving on to the next page. Number 12, Randy is training for a race. She makes a table that shows how long it takes her to run different distances. So we have distance being measured in miles, and then the time is being measured in minutes. For part A, they want us to write the numbered pairs as ordered pairs, and then write the rule to describe how the number pairs are related. So, my ordered pairs, I have 1, 10, 2, 20, 3, 30, and 4, 40. Now, how they are related, I noticed that my distance, my miles, can be multiplied by 10 to find the time. So the distance, can be multiplied by 10 to find the time. So we notice that for every mile, it takes an additional 10 minutes. Now, they want us for part B to just graph those ordered pairs on my coordinate plane. So they do have my coordinate plane already created for me. So I just need to go ahead and plot them. So 1, 10 goes over 1 up to the 10. 2 goes over 2 up to 20. 3, 30. 4, 40. And 5, oops. If I needed to go to the next one, sorry, 5, 50. However, we only really had to go up to 440. Moving on to question number 13. It says a scientist made a line graph that shows how a beaver's average heart rate changes over time. So we have this line graph that we're going to use to answer our questions. So for 13A through C, we need to select true or false for each statement. So 13A, they want to know the bear's average heart rate is at its highest in July. So looking at my line plot, my dot that is up the highest is the dot that is plotted for July, so that is true. B, it says the bear's average heart rate increases by 10 beats per minute from July to August. Well, right away it says it's increasing, but my line is going down. If my line's going down, that means it's decreasing. So it may have been by 10 beats, however, it went down 10 beats, not up, so that would be false. And then C, the bear's average heart rate is at its lowest in January. And again, the lowest dot that was plotted is the January dot, so that is true. Now moving on to the next question. We do need to go to the next page. Number 14. It says the table shows the total number of tickets sold for the school play each day for 5 days. So they want us to graph these ordered pairs from the tiles on the coordinate grid. So obviously they've already taken the day with the number of tickets sold and they've made the ordered pairs with them. We just have to go ahead and plot those points. So for day 1 with the 20 tickets, I have over 1 up 20. That would be my 120. And then for day 2, over 2 up 30. Day 3 is over 3 up 45. Remember, 45 is halfway through 40 and 50. Day 4 is over 4 up 75, so halfway through the 70 to 80 mark. And then day 5 was 5 over 5 up 90. So that is just plotting those ordered pairs from the table that was given. Moving on to question number 15. It says the graph shows the relationship between the amount of milk and water used in a recipe. Determine a rule that relates the amount of milk to the amount of water by writing the correct term or value from the tiles in each blank. So I see when I look at this table, or this ordered pair, or line graph, sorry, I see that I have 1, 4 for the first ordered pair. Then I have 2, 8. Next is 3, 12. And finally I have 4, 16. So I need to figure out what am I going to be doing for my operation. Is it add, subtract, multiply, or divide? And when I do this, it's for the amount of milk by what? So if I'm going from my amount of milk, so if I have 1 tablespoon and I need water, I would have 4 tablespoons of water. How am I going from that 1 to 4, or my 2 to 8, or my 3 to 12, or my 4 to 16? Well, I notice for every x coordinate, if I multiply it by 4, that equals my y coordinate. So my rule is to multiply the amount of milk by 4. And finally, question number 16, our last question that we are going to solve. It says Stephen is buying a new mountain bike on layaway for $272. If he pays $34 each week, how many weeks will it take Stephen to pay for the bike? How can making a table help you solve the problem? So truly, we can make a table, or we can just use some division. It's really up to you of what you want to do. I'm just going to use division because on Schoology, if you would have this as a test question, it wouldn't have the table that you would have to create. It's just going to ask for the final answer. So I'm going to take my total amount of money, the $272, and I'm going to divide it by how much money he's saving each week. Again, my table, I could show week 1 is 34, week 2, obviously you'd take 34 times 2, week 3, and then I would do that until I get to the 272. Or I can eliminate that step by just doing my long division. So I know 34 can't go into 2 or 27. So I'm going to figure out how close I can get to the 272. To figure out what number I want to use, I'm going to round my 34 down to 30, and I'm going to think 30 times what is close to 272. Well, I know that if I take 30 times 7, that's 210. If I take 30 times 8, that is 240. And if I take 30 times 9, that's 270. Well, because I've rounded down, I'm pretty sure that 9 times is going to be too much because it's actually 34 times 9. And I know that if I take 9 times 4, it carries a 3 over. So that's going to put me too high. So I'm going to try the 34 times 8. So 8 times 4 is 32. 8 times 3 is 24, plus 3 is 27. So that did give me my 272. So therefore, I would have 8 weeks that it would take. And again, you could use a table and you could multiply, showing that you would take 34 times 1, 34 times 2, 34 times 3, until you got to that week 8. Or because I did that in long division, I was able to eliminate some of that work. If you have any questions over this, please make sure you contact us teachers so that way we can help you understand any of these questions a little bit more. Thanks.